Okay, we're on the record. So whatever we say will be used against us.
Yeah, might be used against us in the court of law.
Yes. Anyway, well, thank you so much, Avinash, for joining us today. Um, the audience may or may not know who I am, but we are the Touter Core team. We are an agency based in Qatar that's helping startups and small business owners with their marketing and getting their businesses leap off the ground. So we're problem solvers, and with me here today is Vignesh and Valerie, and we're really excited to go through this session with you and to see how NLP applies not only to us but to our clients. So some of the questions we would have are problems that our clients who are entrepreneurs and founders have, or small business owners.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you so much, Valerie. It is really going to be an interesting session because I think there is going to be a lot of value that can be generated out of this. And welcome to the Tauper team because it has been quite some time that we have been working together. And it's always nice to have the faces on and have that interaction going. So thank you, all of you, for this wonderful session that we're going to have.
Well, Avinash, thanks. Would you want, would you guys, why don't you guys say a little bit about yourselves before we hop on?
Sure, I guess I'll start. So I'm Vignesh. I work at Tauta and I look after developing strategies, coming up with ideas and trying to basically figure out what the problems of our clients are and essentially try to find ways to help solve those. So that's essentially, I think, what I do. And it's great to be here and to be chatting with you, Avinash.
Great. Thank you so much. And Valerie,
Hello, I'm Valerie. I handle social media and outreach for Touter clients. Um, so that's it. What I essentially do is I I talk to Touter clients as I to our clients. So as much as possible, we try to connect them. Build a loyalty base for them. So that's it. Yes. Thank you for having
mm,
us.
that's great. Yes, Sophie, you want to continue?
Yes, well, we wanted to ask, we do have an idea what NLP is, and we've known you for quite some time, and we always hear, that you're an NLP coach, NLP here, NLP there. But what is it really in a nutshell?
Right. So specifically,
Is it,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is it another subject, another university subject, or another university course? Is it boring? Is it something I don't know? What is it?
Um, and I love the way you frame the question. So yes, it is. It is something. It is very interesting. I have been learning and practicing NLP for around 15 to 17 years now. And what I believe is that NLP is something that we are born with. It is just an abbreviation that is being given to neuro linguistic programming. That's what it stands for. It's neuro, which stands for the mind, the linguistic, which stands for the language, and the programming is the behavior. But I think we all are NLPers right from the day we are born for a simple reason that when you were born, you did not have a language to speak about, you did not know the ways of the world, but still you managed to ask for food when you were hungry. You managed to tell people that you are uncomfortable when you were, and still you have outgrown from a child who knows nothing to somebody who has been here for around 20, 30, 40 years. And this itself proves that this is something which is natural to us. It's only if we are aware about it, if we create that awareness through a series of techniques, through a series of processes, and the attitudes for creating a change in ourselves. we need to call it something. And that's what we call neuro-linguistic programming as NLP.
Okay, and what are these strategies and techniques, for example?
Yes. So for example, if you, I've been a fan of Robert Dilts, who is one of the practitioners of NLP. He's called the Guru, and he has written a book, Applications of Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which he defines the NLP as a model of how our brain works, how our language interacts with our brain, and how we can use this intense knowledge to systematically and methodically reprogram ourselves and others if you know how to do that. So this is exactly what NLP is about. It's about a set of processes that we can use. And of course, as we go into the webinar, we will be sharing some of the techniques that could be used practically, specifically as you support entrepreneurs. It can be centered around entrepreneurs and their challenges, Sophie.
It sounds a little bit complex. It sounds realistic, doable, but a little bit complex. What can I expect if I learn and apply NLP in my life? How could I expect my life to be different from what it is today? For example, I do practice NLP for the next year. What can I expect myself to be in the next year?
Wow. And to answer that question, Sophie, let me take you to my background, where I come from. For a simple reason, if I share my story of how I have changed over a period of time, probably it will give us an idea of how it can be utilized in practical life. So I come from a very typical middle class family in Mumbai. I have been born and brought up in a chawl, and if you remember, we had spoken about chawl, what the chawl is. It's a small kind of a room, which is say 10 by 10, 20 by 20, and then the entire family has grown up in that kind of a house. And both my parents have been working into a 9 to 5 job. My father was a quality supervisor in a textile mill, and my mom was into a manufacturing industry as a production supervisor. So having come from that working class family, it has taken me some years to realize the importance of having a mindset, and specifically talking about an entrepreneurial mindset. It is it has really dawned upon me uh, that most of our the parents, even today, when they are trying to bring out the best in their kids, but irrespective of their culture, irrespective of their religion, the ethnic backgrounds or the geographical backgrounds, we do the same with our kids in terms of bringing them up with a job oriented, a job seekers mindset, rather than inculcating the entrepreneur's mindset in them. And to give you an example, when I was growing up, the some of the professions that people wanted me to have is kind of become a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, for example, right? And that's what has been taught to us. Also, when we are approached by these, so when my parents took me to a dentist, the way we were being treated was to show that, you know what, he's a dentist and he is a very important person. He's going to be treating you, so make sure that you obey to his instructions, do what he says, open your mouth when he says so, and go according to his comply to his instructions, right? And that has been time and again inculcated into our subconscious mind. And we'll talk a little bit about conscious and subconscious mind. But just to take the story further, if we are being born and brought up with such a mindset, we tend to become expert at becoming a job seeker. And the outdated education system that we have today just goes ahead and strengthens this particular process, because the technology has improved tenfold over a period of last 20, 30 years, but the education system is still there. So what we need to do is come up with a mindset where we are able to teach our kids, are able to teach ourselves. For example, in this case, if you are going to tell the kid that, you know what, this person who is a doctor has spent a lot of money, has spent a lot of years learning what he is going to do so that you can be served, so that you are served better. So make sure that you ask the right questions when it comes to knowing what he is doing. Imagine this shift in the mindset for the child. Now, if this was inculcated in every child, we would have been a different set of generation today. And it's not too late. We can do this with the next generation. If we inculcate this entrepreneurial mindset within the kids, we can always make a difference. And the same way that we could do it to the kid, we could do it with the aspiring entrepreneurs that are in the circles with you and myself, Sophie.
Okay, I get it. But so my question is, Vignesh, you got a question?
Yes. Could you tell us about how it has helped you? Like, because the example was great, but it spoke about how we can impact kids and future generations. But now I already am brought up to believe something. Let's say I believe you're not supposed to question your elders, which is a very Indian thing to do. And you're always afraid when you're going out how to challenge people who are older to you. So let's say I want to get out of this. I want to challenge them, question them. So, what would you give? What would you tell me as an advice, or how would NLP, or how could NLP help me do something to break that mindset?
Absolutely. And I know, Vignesh, that you really, you are an entrepreneur in the way that you have been doing things. Now, let's define what kind of mindset is required for an entrepreneur first, so that we would be able to tell how can NLP help doing that. Going back to your question, how it has helped me, is that for me, the way I see myself in the entrepreneur journey is displaying the leadership abilities and showing the innovator side of me by bringing in new ideas. That's what entrepreneurs are about, right? How can you scout for challenges and the issues that are faced by the society? How can you take a turn on those problems and turn them into potential opportunities? Is what an entrepreneur is about. It is making sure that you take these opportunities and turn it into a profit-making venture, isn't it, Vignesh? And if that
Yes.
is the kind of mindset that you want, what exactly are some of the things that you want? You would require very high levels of motivation. You would require precise decision making skills. You would require that willingness to take those risks, as you know. And as you rightly mentioned, as a part of the culture that we have been born and brought up as Indians, taking risks is not something that we are always comfortable with. And I think in many of the cultures around the world, taking risk is something that you really want to be risk averse. And it goes back to our genetics, because as cavemen, we have always been risk avoiders rather than risk takers. It's in back then it was in our own interest to protect ourselves and to be living for the next generation to come. But that's not the challenge anymore today. I mean, today we are quite safe in the environment that we are. The technology, the health sector has improved so much. So, for that reason, what we would like to do is to look at our psychology first. The qualities that we just
Mm.
mentioned can thrive in the person who does not only have this conscious, but also his subconscious mind under the control. And I may have repeated, I may have said this in my earlier webinars, but this is something that one needs to know, that the subconscious is 95% of the personality that you are. It's only the 10 to 5% of the conscious mind which controls the subconscious mind, right? And this is exactly when neuro linguistic programming comes to the rescue. Whether you are in your personal life, whether you are in jobs, or you're a potential entrepreneur, which helps you to explain that relationship between the conscious and the subconscious by using techniques that we could use in NLP.
Okay, well, what is, I'm just curious, what is the difference between someone who thinks like an entrepreneur and someone who does not?
Absolutely. So the main difference with being an entrepreneur is the non-existence of self-doubt. When you overcome this kind of an anxiety or stress which comes along with self-doubt. So what, if you may ask me, what is it, Avinash, that differentiates entrepreneurs from non-entrepreneurs, is that entrepreneurs have taken action. They have done something more which the non-entrepreneurs would only dream of, right? Here we are assuming that this is a set of people who have that passion to become an entrepreneur, who are aspiring to become an entrepreneur, and something is stopping them which they might or might not know. And what is that one thing, if you want to boil it down? Most of the times, I have been doing multiple one on one coaching, Sophie. I have worked with hundreds of startups, and one thing that really comes across with all of these startups is, or these entrepreneurs, is the element of self doubt. You may have an excellent idea in your mind. You may have all the resources that are available for your disposal. For example, right funding, your business acumen, and so on. But if you do not take action, what's the point? And I remember in one of the conversations, Vignesh was saying that he has told his friend, you know what, go ahead and leave that job and just go ahead and start your entrepreneur journey. Now, no matter how much ready he is, even if we support him with the financial aspect, there will be a challenge that he is not ready to take that action. What stops him is the question that we need to ask. Is it that anxiety? Is it the stress? Is it putting them under pressure? Is it the feeling of being lost, not knowing what to do next? Is it that lack of self confidence? Is it that lack of control over their own mind which stops them for taking that action? And this is exactly what we want to do with the help of some of the techniques that we use in NLP.
Valerie, if you have any questions, feel free.
Right.
Okay, it's just a conversation, so all of us benefit from it. And you mentioned self doubt, because I will never run out of questions. So you guys just jump in and always interrupt me. Uh, you know, uh, you mentioned self doubt. Um, how does NLP exactly help in the elimination of self doubt? Or is it
So
really possible to eliminate self doubt?
wonderful,
Yes,
wonderful.
I don't think
And
like anxiety, to not live without
Yeah.
anxiety. I think, someone told me uh, a psychologist told me a thing about stress management. And she used to say, why do we talk about managing stress? We manage wealth, we manage things that we care about. Why people talk about stress management is because they think, stress is a part of life. And she really said, it's not. It's a myth that has to be busted. So, like, I can't believe even until today that we can live without stress or anxiety. So, I'm still a skeptic on that one.
Yeah, because I mean, I could pay everything I have to erase stress, and then I walk down the street and come across Brad Pitt, I'm gonna faint.
Yeah, that's
exactly, exactly. And I agree with you, Vignesh, when you say that yes, we do not want to manage stress, because this is something. Again, there are different kind of stress, right? There are different kind of anxieties, and there are positive stress. That is positive. If you would have heard about positive stress, what it does is it pushes us to take action. It pushes us from that boundary of being in that comfort zone. That's called positive stress. Have you ever tried to go onto a stage just before having a speech to be delivered? And it could be in your younger, I mean, when you are school days, for example, right? You go onto the stage and there is a kind of ball that starts generating in our stomach. We have those butterflies that we call. That's a kind of positive stress. Of course, it is good because it helps you to give a better delivery of your speech, right? So some anxieties, some stress are powerful enough to push us into becoming the better self. Now, how do we do that? How do we get into that mode is the question. Now, let me give you an example. Now, speaking of NLP is more about practical implementation rather than theories. You would see hundreds of books around on the internet, tons of people speaking about NLP, giving theories. But if we are not able to translate that into practical exercises, which can help me today, right? It has no meaning. I mean, any technique which is something which is a theory, it has no meaning in its own until it's practically implemented. And for that reason, I would really recommend that all of us contribute to this exercise. What we are going to do is a kind of a visualization, and specifically, we could visualize as a part of an NLP technique wherein actions feel created in your mind.
Oh, you're
Now, if
chopping
you
off.
go onto the internet, yeah, can you hear me?
You chopped off for a
Can you hear me
second.
now?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
good now.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. So if you go onto the internet and you will see that when you talk about visualization, am I clear, Sophie? Your eyes are, yes, okay. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So if you go onto the internet and just look at visualization, you will have multiple cases where they say just shut your eyes and imagine yourself to be successful. And that's what visualization is. And that's why it has sometimes been branded in a different way. But that's not what the technical element of visualization is. So let's go ahead and do it ourselves to experience that. Visualize. So come up with what is about, and it could be a challenge. It could be the future self that you are. um, Visualize that thing that you want to see it, you feel it, you want to believe in it. So for example, give me an example, Vignesh or Sophie or Valerie, wherein you could be looking at your entrepreneurial journey. What would you like to seek as a goal for yourself?
Um, I think maybe having a large office with like 50 odd staff.
Absolutely right.
Uh,
So and
Uh,
that could be a visualization. And what does that do for you, Vignesh? Having a large office with 50 odd staff, what are you doing with it?
Well, it gives us the sense that we have grown. We are definitely having more clients than we can probably handle, or we have expanded in some way, and we're doing pretty well as a business.
Wonderful. And that's exactly the core. So your goal is to do pretty well. And when you say pretty well, you need to really define that, and you need to make it very visual. And this is a technique that we are going to use, right? So for example, if you say it in one sentence, you would say, I would like to see my
Mm,
own successful business, for example. But
mhm,
now, what you need to visualize is yourself seeing yourself as a boss with a big office. Now, can you visualize yourself sitting in a very comfortable leather chair with a nice big office and having around 50 staff, which you know that they are sitting either in different departments across the office or at different location across the globe, right? And you would see yourself really coordinating with them, giving them directions, showing them those leadership values that you stand for, right? What else do you see,
yes.
Vignesh, when you visualize yourself as running your own successful business? Can you contribute? Can you tell me more?
Well, I believe um, maybe we have meetings, we fly across the globe, the sort of thing. We are not in one continent. Yeah, that could be it. Or we have a lot of paperwork to do. That's usually what comes to mind when you think of an executive.
Exactly. And so, for example, when you say that you are flying across the globe, right? You would want to imagine. You would want to imagine that those kind of. So, for example, an air ticket that you see. Oh well, this is your, and now it's on the internet, that you maybe imagine that you're flying to Singapore, you're flying to the US, you're flying to the UK, and having those meetings in those various places with those people that you love working with, right? And then, if I may go to the next level, what is the kind of income that you're expecting from your business, Vignesh?
Um, well, let's say, okay, we can dream big. So let's say we're earning at least $1 million a month, and of course, let's say 300,000 a month, Sophie, or something. Yeah,
Right? So
$300,000 a month. Let's say
three
that's,
hundred
yeah.
thousand dollars a month, and that's a very good
Mm,
goal to have. What? How do you visualize that? Now,
mm,
do you see the bank account having a bank balance of 300,000 a month, and you would see Tauter as the bank account, or you would see Vignesh as the bank account owner, for example, right? And you would see this visually. And when I say visually, it's not
mm,
just to see that number. It's the feeling. How
mm,
do you feel? Now imagine you having $300,000 in your bank account. What would be the feeling? How would you feel the same, or you would feel different? Just go into your mind and see, well, you know what? This is now, I have $300,000 in my account. What would that Vignesh look like? What would that Vignesh be feeling? Having that sense of that insight itself is a wonderful feeling to have.
mm,
And what are you going to do with it? That's another question that you are going to ask yourself. That's really very important, because what happens is, having wealth and using that wealth helps you create more wealth. So if you could imagine yourself using that wealth in such a way where it is creating more wealth for you, it is having your objectives being achieved. For example, some people have an objective of charity, right? You would see helping people to grow their own businesses by supporting them through a part of the $300,000, creating more businesses for them, and all of them are your annuities, for example. Those are your own small businesses where you see your own people growing. Isn't that wonderful?
mm, mm.
Right? And this is exactly what you
Yes.
want to do. So you want to break it down to certain levels of different elements of your business, okay? And then visualize it in the way you would see it, you would hear it, you would feel it. And that's what will make a difference if you start doing this on a daily basis. And we were earlier, before this call, we were talking about the 75 days of doing something. And I think this is another exercise that if you start with those 30 days, it takes 21 days to form an habit. So if you start with the first 30 days of doing this every day, and then move on to do it for the next 60 days, you know what? You already have a kind of a mindset which you have visualized for yourself, a goal that you have visualized for yourself. And if for people who have already seen The Secret or the Law of Attraction, what happens, there is a scientific reason for this, right? Once you know that this is what you're wanting to achieve, things will automatically start falling in place for the right people, for the right resources, for the right elements to join in forces to make sure that you are on the right track. So this is about visualization. Now
Yes.
this is a simple technique. It does not require any investment. It does not require anything else other than one small thing called discipline. If you have the discipline
Mm,
to do this on a daily basis, and Vignesh, you have gone through this, so you could really do this on a daily basis just before you go to sleep, or the moment you wake up in the morning. Two instances for 30 days, and then again for 60 days. You will see a transformative change already happening. And not only in terms of your physiology, but also in terms of the actual manifestation. So you would see the bank account grow. And it's important that we show this gratitude towards that. Every little that thing that happens as you imagine it to be, you show a lot of gratitude. You show a element of thankfulness, which again increases that power multifold. And this is what we do to develop this kind of a mindset. I'm pretty sure if people who are listening to this webinar, who are a part of this, would want to start writing down these elements of how they see their success and start visualizing this on a daily basis, I think we already have a winner on our hand.
Is there a, because I've tried this and I've always, like just fell through the cracks, like, because somehow there's, the like self-doubt. I look at the mirror and I say, today it will be great because I'm gonna do this and my future is gonna be this. And then eventually I also tell myself, you idiot, what are you thinking? You know? So is there a framework that could be followed to be successful and not end up mocking yourself? Because
Mm.
realistically it
And
happens and then just give up.
absolutely. And you know what? Why this happens, Sophie? A very important reason of why this happens is because you do not attach your emotions to your visualization. What do I mean by that? And again, this is the second part of the technique. If you start attaching your emotions with your 100% faith in the visualization process, you would definitely see a difference in how you make things happen. For example, okay, whatever Vignesh, we'll just go with your example now. And whatever you have
Yes.
imagined, if you take it to the next level and start attaching emotions to them. For example, if you say to yourself right now, and you would like to feel it, hear it, see it. If I were you, I would say I feel proud to see myself taking this plunge. And you feel that feeling of pride within you, of knowing that you have
Hmm.
been an established entrepreneur. How does that feel?
Hmm.
How amazing it is to be your own boss, to run a company with 50 odd people,
Right.
and
Now,
so on.
just
Just,
to
yeah,
yeah, just to clarify, I think what Sophie is saying, in my words, is fine. I'm visualizing. This is great. It keeps me motivated. But there is something called reality, and there's something called visualization. Now, let's say I have
yes.
all these great thoughts in my head. Right now, I look into my bank account and I'm disappointed, or my client tells me my designs are not great. Right. So it's a
Mhm,
slap
mhm.
to my ego, for example. And I suddenly feel like, will I ever make it there? It's too far away. Like, what am I thinking? I can't get this one thing right. So when we face day-to-day issues, and when we look at the long-term goals, that's where we find ourselves sometimes caught up. Like, we know we have a long-term plan, but the small day-to-day things can sometimes hold us back, which I think many entrepreneurs also suffer from. Like, for example, some of my friends, they think, oh, I'm married, how can I start a business? I have a wife and family to feed. So there are things. How do we kind of go from that, like beyond reality, to invest in the dream, to also say, okay, this is my reality, but I want to get there. So how do we balance it from both ends?
So a very important element is what do you do when you have these thoughts? Okay. Some of the people,
Yes.
when they have these negative thoughts, they would give into it. They
Hmm.
would give in and say, you know what, it's comfortable. And by the way, it's comfortable to give into negative thoughts because you don't have to change. You don't have to do anything different. Okay. And that's what is the difference between that entrepreneur mindset and a non-entrepreneur one. And this is what I started with, taking action. If I receive a feedback from my client that my designs are not that good, what am I doing about it? It's easy for me to say, you know what, Avinash told me to dream about that 300,000, but my designs
Hmm.
are not good. Let me go back and sleep because this is never going to happen.
Yes.
Right? This is one way of thinking
Yes.
about it. But if I were you, what I would do is, well, there is a difference in the way my client is communicating that my designs are not good. Now, what does he mean by that? I have been designing, there have been clients which have been saying why designs are excellent, right? And what happened with this client is what I need to further dwell down. I need to find out what is something that I'm not meeting those expectations. I need to either work on my own with my own designing skills, or I need to work more with the client communicating what are his requirements. Because I have done this in the past. I have been successful. So every time I come across an unsuccessful event, I want to go back to those successful events that I have been with and really reiterate that framework of what I need to do now. If I'm really going to say, you know what, this is not working, well, it will not work, right? And if you want to make it work, you need to work hard around it. You want to make sure that you put that extra effort to go back to the client, find out what's not working, and work on those skills. It's quite easy. I mean, it's quite comfortable to accept the fact design is not good.
See.
You are not
Oh.
expected to deliver 100% of the times every time, right? So it is
Yes, yes, I
important that
agree.
what
Yeah.
you do when this negative thoughts come in. So if you take that action at that point in time, I can guarantee you, you will be successful no matter what. So you have a choice. If you choose to be successful, you can be. If you choose to just let go, it's our own choice, isn't it?
Yes, now it's easy to get into the mindset and get into the frame of being motivated and then just ignoring negative feedback that would come your way or work to improve negative feedback. But how do we sustain? How do we keep the momentum going? Like, I'm sure all of us could relate when you say, I'm gonna be fit and then I'm gonna be healthy and I'm gonna work out. And then that goes on for what, 5, 6, 7, 11 days. And then what now? We always tend to bounce back to what is comfortable and what is easy. How do you sustain motivation?
Absolutely. And if you were to ask this question where we were in the school times, right? How do I go from standard one to standard two? How do I reach from standard two to standard three, right? From class one to class two? What is it that we do? Are you able to hear me? Am I clear, Sophie?
Yes.
Hmm? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So what is it that you had all that period? Someone to guide you, someone to help you, someone to tell you what needs to be done next, didn't you? Did you have the same kind of questions when you were learning through someone, when there were teachers around, when we had parents around supporting us, when we were having friends who were guiding us to do things, right? But when it comes to a specific area of life, we think that we know it all. We think that I am the best judge of how I want to take my life forward, and which could be partially true, but you never introspect through your own eyes. You will never be able to criticize your own self for you to improve. That's not how our mindset is built for. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
It's important that at any given point in time, you would have some eye on the ground, somebody who would be able to show you that, well, you know what, Sophie, this is where you would require support. This is what you need to do next. It's kind of a mentor, it's kind of a buddy that you would have to support you throughout that phase. Because once you have crossed that phase, you will be on your own. But the difficult part is taking action. The difficult part is where you really want to sustain yourself for that period of time, where there is uncertainty, where there is so much of ambiguity. And if you have somebody to guide you through during that period, I think you will be a lot more ready for success when you are on your own. And this is how I have been training my coaches to become successful in the longer run. I hope I have
Okay, so
answered that question,
Yes, yes, and
Sophie.
it made sense and reminded me of one of the best, most valuable coaches. Sorry, one of the most valuable coaches that I have worked with from Cubic. He's no longer here. I think he moved back to Canada. Alan Vignesh. His name is Alan
yes,
Valley Kid, and he told me that forever in your life, no matter where you are, no matter how successful you are, the guy is successful. He's built and exited from a couple of startups, and he told me that you will always need a coach, and at that stage in his life when he is coaching me, he has a coach, and his coach has a coach. It could be whatever you want to call it, but you always need a sounding board, someone to bounce back ideas with. And is that what you mean by, because we're bad ourselves, are bad accountability partners? We can't rely on on ourselves for accountability.
yes,
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you. I am a licensed Richard Bandler certified NLP coach, and I have been doing this for, I mean, I don't know, around 15 years, as I said. I have thousands of hours in coaching under my belt. Now, technically, this qualifies me to be an expert, right? But when I am with my clients, even today, I face certain challenges. I see people still struggle to transform. And I think I may be doing everything exactly how I wanted to do. But then I have my own coaches because they are my eyes on the ground. Someone who watch me and tell me that, you know what, this is something that did not go right. This is very much what I do with my coaches as well. I become their eyes on the ground, helping them to become aware of those things that you want to change to achieve your desired results. And I think having that coach almost guarantees that there won't be as many challenges as you may face if you are to do everything on your own. It's, as you rightly said, you know what, it's like having that sounding board whose reactions to suggested ideas can be used as a test bed for validating your success before you make it public, Sophie.
Thank you. Well, we've learned a lot, and before I wrap up, just one last question from my end, and maybe the guys do have questions too. Um, what can a coach, or specifically an NLP coach, tell me that my partner, friends, family, or co-founders won't tell me?
Wonderful, right? And this is exactly why this answers your question first. That why exactly you need a coach. Your friends, your co-founders, your family members have a different view of you, Sophie. They do not see you. They see you as a friend. They see you as a daughter. They see you as a partner, for example. They do not see you as an entrepreneur on its own for them to give you that unbiased view. So if I am talking to my son, if I'm talking to my parents, I will always have that bias of a relationship in it, right? That's exactly why you need somebody who is a third party, who would look at things from a third party perspective and look at it objectively, not subjectively based on what Sophie is, but it's about what Sophie is doing. It's about her actions, not as a person. And this is exactly what the difference is between having somebody who is known to you as a partner, as a parent, or a family member, versus having a professional coach who has been trained in certain techniques and tools to do exactly what can make you successful as a person.
Okay, Vignesh, Valerie, you guys have questions?
Yeah, I have like one. Yeah, so I think from the conversation we had, from what I got on my end is that NLP is like a program wherein you attach your emotions, or you all this you try to change how you think, right? So is it like, does it like by applying those processes, does it like trigger like my motivation to be an entrepreneur, or does it, something in the something like that? Like, does NLP trigger one's motivation or entrepreneurial skills, like being risk takers or something like that? I don't know. I'm still getting a hold of the idea of NLP.
Where does it
And
take you?
Yes, yes.
exactly. And I really love this question for a simple reason, because we have done an exercise with Vignesh. Let Vignesh answer this question. Vignesh, having done that visualization, okay, there would be definitely
Yes.
some additional benefits that we would have seen within those 2-3 minutes of visualization. What do you think in terms of an added benefit that it has did not have earlier after you have done this?
Mm, well, for me, I think it definitely motivates you in a certain way, and you know, it's just nice, I think, to talk about your dreams. It's like when you share your dreams with your friends, you get excited and motivated. I believe that's what I could see, though I can't really tell much more than that.
Exactly. And that's the first step. I mean, to get excited about things, to get motivated about things, is the first step to your success. Now, imagine if a 2-minute exercise can do this. If you do this constantly, every night, every morning, and you define the goals for yourself, there is a humongous potential for you to start working towards those goals, wouldn't it?
Um,
Isn't it, Vignesh?
well, it again brings me to the same point because uh, again, I genuinely I have introspected myself, and one thing that always stops, even though we know we can achieve certain goals, is limiting beliefs. We have certain things in our head which gets us stuck on certain things, and it doesn't help move forward. Like, you want things to be perfect, or you want everything to align in a certain way, things like that. So yes, it does get me motivated, but there are also things which are hurdles which stops me, which is not even about motivation, which is more about my
External
limiting beliefs as
factors
I see it.
too.
Yes, like, what your parents have told you, what your uh, grandparents tell you. I don't know how to explain it, but I pretty much know that those limiting beliefs are what makes me doubt myself, and not really that, I don't have a goal in mind, or I don't visualize. Yes, all of those are there, but in my head, it's like, okay, I'm visualizing, but around me, I wake up, and someone, let's say, is saying, oh, but you're a really lazy guy, and that kind of
Correct.
is in your head, and you want to, yeah, yeah, she has the book, which is which
Exactly.
is what I guess I'm getting at. And a lot of the times, this is what I believe stops me, and most of us, I believe, this is the thing. Like, we are somehow, I think, brainwashed into believing that we are not capable of doing certain things, or I don't know, but that's what I'm trying to
I
get at. It's not the
absolutely
motivation, at least for me. Hmm.
correct, correct, and I understand that what makes you, and yeah, we see Sophie having multiple books, uh, with start with why, and again, see, we do have all the resources, right? What we do with them
Hmm.
is important. We have people who have taken action and have been successful.
Yeah,
We
when
have
all
people,
else fail, when all else fail, you
yeah, this is a tarot card.
Yes.
no,
Exactly.
this is that's such a sorry, Avinash, it's just to
No,
lighten
I
it up,
understand,
but
and this is exactly what
and that's
happens, right?
that's that's the point. I've been erasing like everything I have. I even have this, and then I have like almost an entire library. But why am I still like this?
Absolutely. And it definitely shows one thing, Sophie, that in terms of having the discipline to take action is really what matters, isn't it? To sustain that actions over a period of time is what matters. The difference, the real difference between entrepreneurs or people with a successful mindset and those with not is something called discipline. And I know I'm reiterating myself, but to just make sure that if you consistently take action, you will see consistent results. You will, if you consistently take action, you will see consistent results. And just to build up on the segue of what Vignesh was saying in terms of limiting beliefs, I know one session, 30 minutes, is not going to change you as a person completely. But this is something that we want to do consistently. And as a part of these kind of webinars, this kind of programs that we are holding for others, is what we are going to bring this change with. What I suggest is in our next webinar, we will talk about belief change. And that's a good way to start this journey of becoming an entrepreneur step by step, rather than wanting to change completely altogether within a day's time, which is not a practical possibility. Okay. So on that note, if I could take you through towards the end of the webinar in the interest of time, I really would thank Tauter and the entire team to spend this important time with us. As promised, I will also be sharing one cheat sheet with you. And also, basically, in this webinar, we have just established the fact that working on yourself with some easy to follow activities can get you into the entrepreneur league. And this is the first step to be successful, right? We are not expecting that you change 180 degrees, but at least you have taken this first step. Now, in terms of the consistency, if you are able to start this visualization program at the end of the day today, while you go to sleep, or early in the morning tomorrow, you have started becoming that entrepreneur that you want to be, right? You have started getting into the journey. Secondly, these simple techniques that we will show time and again in our every webinar, it will be different techniques that we will cover. It will ensure that your mind is looped for continual improvement. It goes into an auto mode with these exercises, which will impact you at a subconscious level. And you will get the results of this exercise, whether you want it to work or no. What Vignesh has done today will definitely have an impact at the subconscious level, even if he doesn't want it to. He has established a target number for himself, right? He has established how he could become successful. So whether he wants it or not, that is something which has gone into his subconscious. And if you all practice this, you all go through this exercise, it will somehow be established in your subconscious. In the next webinar, we will be covering something around belief change and how we can do change in beliefs as requested by Vignesh. And we will also have some kind of important takeaways in these kind of webinars, so that you can keep on continuously developing a mindset for NLP and for entrepreneurship, and make yourself successful. Back to you, Sophie.
Well, thank you so much, Avinash, for everything. This has been insightful. And before we go, what is one thing that we can do for the rest of the week, for example, before we meet again, to try and impact change on so my key takeaway here is NLP is about, instead of correcting the things around you, you work from the inside out.
Yes, absolutely. You work
Instead
from the
of
inside
blaming
out.
everything around you, you fix yourself inside, and then affect, so the circle just grows, but you
Exactly.
start with yourself.
The
So
inner self. Yes.
what can we practice, for example, the rest of the week, and give you feedback on the next 7 days?
So if I were to ask you to do one thing, right, to establish that goal for yourself, and it has to be in a practical written manner. It's not just that, okay, I know in back of my head, so it's there. But if you
So write it
write
down.
down, write down that element of the goal that you want to visualize in the most detailed manner. And when I say in the most detailed manner, what I mean is that every little element that you see yourself as being successful has to be on that paper. For some, it is kind of one pager. For some, it is a book, right? So it depends on how detailed you are. The more details you can capture, the more easier it is for you to reach your goal. That's the first thing that you do. The second thing that you would want to do is to attach those emotions to each of those statements. So when you are saying, I want to become a successful entrepreneur, versus I visualize myself feeling proud of having a successful enterprise with 50 people sitting in this leather chair, feeling the softness of this leather chair while I am speaking to somebody in the US who is my counterpoint managing that business in the United States. Imagine the difference between the two, right? It creates absolute clarity in your mind of how you see things happening. So if there is one thing that you want to do is to write it down. This last thing that I would request you to do is once it is written down, share it. Share it within the group, share it with different people. What it does is it concretes that element of you sharing what you are thinking. And people sharing it with you will also, because we are very hesitant to share our dreams. We don't do that very often. We want to hide it, we want to keep it to ourselves because you do not, you feel that people will laugh. Why would people see myself as a $300,000 entrepreneur, right? This is that self, that the limiting belief that we have within us. The first step to conquer that is to go out and shout at the people, especially if you know people, somebody who you trust, you know these are my close ones. Go ahead and share it with them. Tell them this is my goal for the what I have written. Okay, and every night, just before going to sleep, have a read at it. Every morning, the first thing that you do is read your goal, read your visualized goal. And doing this only for the next 7 days will show a significant impact. If you continue to do this for the next 30 days, you will see things changing. If you do it for the next 75 days, you would see things manifesting. I mean, you would see elements of that dream come true. And I'm not just saying it. I am myself doing it. I could see things coming across happening for me in a very positive way. So if you really want to take away and make the best of the time that you have spent with me, please do this for the next 7 days. In the next webinar when we meet, we'll talk in depth about limiting beliefs and how we can overcome them. Back to you, Sophie.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I'm going to look forward to our next session. And I'll stop recording now. So, all right.